Alabama, coming off a loss to Vanderbilt, has a scare against South Carolina. Your thoughts on the game?
This Alabama team, and it's crazy that we're able to kind of sit here and juxtapose these two conversations next to one another, because they both, in both the previews we did, they both were set up to bounce back, to work on the things against weak teams and figure out what went wrong and improve upon it. And it looked like Alabama was doing that. First quarter, they were kicking their ass. Their defensive line, I tweeted this, they looked pissed off. They were getting after that rushing attack, the Jalen Milroe passing attack, run game. It was all flowing. And they got too high on themselves. It's back-to-back weeks where this has happened, where it feels like they mailed it in. They mailed it in after a quarter. A quarter. Alabama can't win football games by doing crap like that. Right now, to paint the picture, I think what Alabama's biggest problem is right now, it's more diagnosable than it is Tennessee's. They're undisciplined. And it's the case of having a new head coach who's taking over, who's a brilliant coach, but doesn't have the buy-in fully from his roster. 94th in total penalties. They had 7 against South Carolina, 3 personal fouls, 65th in total turnovers lost. They had 2 against South Carolina. They're making stupid, silly mistakes. If you can correct that to some degree, this Alabama team is still a great team, but they're shooting themselves in the foot, and they're playing
I don't think
sloppy.
they're a great team.
They're playing sloppy, undisciplined football. Let me rephrase. They have talent at important positions that would constitute them being competitive enough to be in the SEC championship conversation. But because they're playing so sloppy, they're dragging themselves down a ton.
Joe, their O-line got absolutely abused. Now,
Yes.
I get that South Carolina's D-line, I would put them as one of the best, if not the best. I think you can make the argument they're one of the best defensive lines in the country. But, man, you talk about the undisciplined stuff. Think about the end of the game, Joe, the onside kick. South Carolina got an onside kick, and if that situation is managed better, you're going to lose another football game, okay? I think you're getting out here. I think it's too easy to say that it's on, and I know you're not saying this. I don't think they're only getting out disciplined, Joe. I think they're getting out coached. I think they're defensive wise, they're getting out coached. Think about this. If I would have told you this last week, that South Carolina would have more passing yards, more rushing yards, would get an onside kick in a critical situation, and that Lenore Sellers would have more passing or the same amount of passing touchdowns as Jalen Milroe, you would have said, down goes Bama. But because Shane Beamer mismanaged a situation at the end of the game, they wind up holding on and winning. And sometimes, Joe, you got to just find ways to hold on and win football games, right? Like, you just got to find ways to hold on. But the bottom line is Jalen Milroe got outperformed. Everybody got outperformed in that second half. South Carolina comes into the second half with an 8-minute drive to start it off and gets a touchdown. They're right back in the football game. They can't get off the field. They're too, I bring up the Brooks Austin thing. I know that went viral. Joe, they're stealing man-to-man coverage. They start off the game in zone. It starts working for him. Sellers has no idea what he's doing. Then they go to man-to-man. Sellers, on 3 crucial third downs, picks up first downs with his legs. Nobody's spying him. That's a schematical issue. Like, at this moment, I get what you're saying about them being undisciplined, but you're running too high in man-to-man coverage with a quarterback that can run. It's the last thing that you do in situations like this. And then secondly, Joe, they did nothing to stop that pass rush. Nothing. Okay, they did some better things in the second half with getting the ball out quickly for Jalen Milroe. Bro, Jalen was getting his ass killed in the first half. Killed. Those 2 interceptions he had was awful. I tweeted this to you during the game. The kid Kilgore that I brought up in the preview of this game, what did I say? Put him on your freaking draft board. This kid can play. Out.
I haven't watched his tape, so I'm not going to speak.
Joe, everything that listen, I'm not joking around. That defense is actually really good. I don't give 2 shits what anybody tells me. You played a really good defense. They're top 20 in the country in passing yards allowed. They're top 20 in the country in run defense. They're up there in turnovers that they get. defensively. They're number 3 in sacks. That defense is really stinking good. However, you made no adjustments. I've seen now 8 straight quarters of the lack of adjustments defensively that you're having for Alabama not be there. And that is going to cost you down the road. I don't know against who. You know what? I'll tell you against who. You ready? You can't go up against coaches again or for the first time. Joe, Brian Kelly will make halftime adjustments. We saw that Kirby Smart did it, and it almost won them the football game. These premier coaching staffs that you have that you know that can really take it to somebody and adjust at halftime or on the sidelines, you're going to lose another football game if you keep being vanilla the way that you are. That's the only way that I see it, because they're doing what you're asking them to do. They're running the man-to-man coverage, but Lenore Sellers is out scheming you. Joe, by the way, they went man-to-man coverage against a guy that's 6'6" and is a track star in Harbor. He has no help. Lenore Sellers only has one hope. He's got to throw the ball into the end zone. And you still call a defense where you're in man-to-man coverage, bro.
Look, I don't disagree that I have said this, and I said this last week when they lost to Vanderbilt, that Womack has not been coaching to the level that he needs to. Like, they're not playing good defense, and they're not scheming good defense. There's been a lot written about how they're not appearing to be prepared at all. I still think, though, the way that they put against Georgia shows me that there's still the ghost of a good football team, one that can be an SEC champion if they figure out how to get their shit together. That might be too far gone at this point, but if they're able to recover and play better defense and make better decisions, they have the athletes. Again, I don't think it's going to happen, but the way that they played in the first half against Georgia still exists. I will bring this up.
Well, hold on. Let me ask you this, because I want your answer to this. Does it in this sense? Ever since the second half, when Kirby made a halftime adjustment, it has not existed.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay.
So my point to this would be, I think that there's a lot to be said that Kirby figured something out against you and other teams are replicating it. You know how I know that that's the case? Because Clark Lee said it's exactly what he did.
Well, but that's not what I was talking about. All I'm trying to say here is that half, if they can get back to playing football that way, that is a team that
they can.
I don't know if it's that simple. I mean, it's not like we're banking off of a projection from the preseason here. Like, they played one of the best halves of football that we've seen, and I know that I'm kind of giving them a lot of grace there.
A lot.
If there's some way to recover and get back to that and get back focused, they just feel unfocused, undisciplined. And again, Womack has also been doing a really shit job. I have to bring this up, though, and I'm not saying that this correlation means that they're going to get everything fixed. But last year, they looked like shit in the first half of the season up until October 7th.
You can't do that.
No. I'm not bringing this up to say that like this automatically means they're going to be successful. I'm just pointing out that there are two halves to a season. They barely beat Texas A&M 26-21. They barely beat Arkansas 24-21. And then they went on to dominate Tennessee 34-20. And then they beat LSU at home 42-28. I'm just bringing this up to remind everyone, there is recoverability with teams that start the season slow. There always is. And especially now more than ever with the expanded playoff. I'm
going to throw this out there. Okay. There's one massive issue with what you just said. You ready?
They don't have Nick Saban. I mean, I get that. And now I wasn't trying to make that point to say that, they're going to go on to go to the playoff and win the SEC. I'm just merely trying to point out here that they were going through similar issues last year. And this applies to every team that we talk about. Tennessee, same shit. Tennessee could have some sort of ascension. If they could beat Bama this weekend, they could go on some crazy run. Maybe I should have brought that up last segment.